Okay, when we left off, we were talking about Rod Serling. You had
Oh,
known
yes.
him. Can you give us a little description of him from your point of view?
I didn't work with him, but I knew him. We used to play poker, and my husband Roy and the Selfs, and Rod and Carol, his wife. We had lots of fun.
Any kind of personality things you can say about him?
It was a warm man, warmer than his wife, really. He would, anytime there was an invitation, he was the one that called you up and accepted or didn't. Not Carol, which I always thought was so strange, but because that's usually the woman's role. And I see her now occasionally, and I don't think she's remarried. I think she goes out with somebody that she's gone with a long time. And but he was fun and warm and bright, and it was a big shock when he died, because he died when he was 50 on the operating table for his heart. So, yeah.
Another movie that you did was a television movie for NBC called Going to the Chapel.
Going to the Chapel, I think. Oh, no. That was another movie of the week. And it was, I was not very proud of that one. I didn't think I did a very good job in that one. I didn't have a big role, but I wasn't very happy with what I did with what I had. You know? So I just as soon forget that one.
Did you turn down a lot of roles in your career? Or?
No, the only ones I've ever turned down are the ones that are playing off of June Cleaver, and they're making fun of her in some manner, or and she's been too good to me for me to play anything like that. Or she says things that aren't very nice. You know, she does things that I don't. I would do anything as far as, but when they're playing off of June Cleaver, then I think it's wrong. Now that's the way I feel. Some other actresses think I was crazy, but I feel that very, very strongly.
Another appearance that you made was on Parker Lewis Can't Lose. As,
oh, yes. I know. That was a strange show, too. It was kind of fun to do. And it was, I can't tell you anything about it other than that it was a show with a lot of young people in it. And I played a principal or something like that in it. Yeah.
Another one was Empty Nest.
Oh, Empty Nest. I love Richard Mulligan. He was wonderful. I loved him when he did Soap. Oh, what a funny show that was. But I'd been a follower of Empty Nest because I liked it so much. And to get to play it, and I was playing Laverne, his nurse, was taking vacation. And she was trying to approve of whoever he put in there in her place. Well, I got the job. And I was a very conniving, in a nice way. I had worked for him before, and I wanted to come back. And so I was baking him all the things he liked. I was doing all kinds of things. And I was getting the filing cabinet all cleaned up, and Laverne was madder than a wet hen. Anyway, it all turns out fine, and Laverne keeps her job, and I'm out. But it was a fun role to play, and it was fun to be with all of them. Now, that was a live show, not live, tape show with an audience. Thank goodness they're taped now.
Another one was Hi, Honey, I'm Home, where you appeared.
Yeah, that was a short-lived series, and it was really a takeoff on all the sitcoms that had been in the 50s, 60s. And it was fun to play. But I can't tell you too much about it other than that it was a takeoff.
Okay. You also starred as Jean on an episode of The Mommies.
I played first one of the girls' mothers, and the next time I was on, I played the other one's mother. And it again had to do. There were several. One of them, there were several of the mothers, like June Lockhart, and I can't remember the others. I could if I had a minute to think, but they were in the show, and it was kind of fun. It was all about Mother's Day, And the other one, and maybe that was the same one, I'm such a happy-go-lucky. We all have our problems, and my problem is that I'm engaged to be married again, and he's 26 years old. So that was fun, too.
Also on Murphy Brown in the episode Crime Story.
Oh, I love being on Murphy Brown because that was, again, one of my favorite shows. Yeah, I played the head of the neighborhood watch who had a 9 milli. And the recoil, it really, I had to give it up because it hurt my bursitis. But I liked all those characters, and it was fun. It was fun to be with her. She works hard. Boy, did she work hard. She's got that script in her hand. She's in every scene. There's practically nothing that she wasn't in those shows. And she would have that script working on it all the time, in between takes. And she worked hard, just like Jay Leno. I'll never get over being on Jay Leno's show. Every time I've been on it, he is there with that script, changing things right up until showtime, and then even in between. And there's a commercial, he's honing, At least that's what he did when I was on his show. And but there's nobody like Johnny Carson. I'm sorry. Johnny Carson, he made all the rest of them look sick as far as
Did you appear on his show?
Never. Appeared on his show, but he was never there. When I was on it, he wasn't there. And Joan Rivers was on, taking his place when I was on once. And we did have wonderful comedians, didn't we? We had George Byrne, Gracie Allen, Jack Benny I saw not too long ago on some reruns. And honest to God, his comedy is every bit as funny as it was then. Wonderful comedian. I don't know, do we have any comics that compare with them today? I don't know. I don't see them, but maybe they're there.
Okay, how about Roseanne, an episode called All About
Oh,
Rosie?
that was nice. We were the TV welcome wagon, and her set is dirty, and we washed her table, and I couldn't believe it was so dirty, but she was very nice to us. Everybody thought, she's going to be terrible. She wasn't. She wanted a cake. She sent somebody off to 50 miles to get this particular chocolate cake, and they cut a piece for her and gave it to her. And she said, "Well, I want all of them to have it." So the only funny thing she did that was typical of Roseanne was we were on the set doing a scene, and she was supposed to come in, and she didn't. And they called to her, "Roseanne, where are you?" And she said, "For Christ's sakes, give me a little time." And that's the only time she did something that was typical of what you think Roseanne is. Now, her scripts, they're not Beaver. They were full of love, though. But I like to think that people live more like the Cleavers than Roseanne's group. And when she'd tell them to go out and play in the streets, I know she did it with love, but it was different. It was different. And you all loved it.
Do you think there was any sitcom that ever was able to approximate that same?
I don't know. I was talking with a girl the other day. Now, what's her name? I loved her. Her name is Joanne Kearns. She was on a sitcom that they were the Seavers, not the Cleavers. And she's now directing. Doing very well.
It was Growing Pains.
Hmm?
The series was called Growing Pains.
Growing Pains, thank you for your help. I didn't see it, unfortunately, but I know. I met her on this show. I liked her very much.
The last credit I want to talk to you about is you played Aunt Martha in the big screen version of
Well,
Beaver.
that movie was laughable because that movie was supposed to be directed by Brian Levant, who had put the new Leave It to Beaver together. And he got a job directing Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he was going to get a lot more money for that than he was going to get for us. They asked Universal to wait, and they wouldn't wait. So they got somebody else to do his script. He'd put it together. He did everything. And we were all out of it. There was when you saw the movie, the only scene that was in, it was rewritten and redone, and the only scene that was in of any of us was Eddie Haskell. He was playing typical Eddie Haskell, and he was absolutely wonderful. And he was in it. I'm sitting in a chair at a party. The whole party is cut out, so you didn't see any of the things that I did. What else is Tony and Jerry wouldn't do it, and Frank Bank was in it, and Frank, all you see is him saying goodbye, and so none of us are really in it. Got a lot of money.
Did you talk with Janine Turner at all, who played June Cleaver?
She was wonderful, and she got a new series. It was in the Sunday paper. I was so thrilled for her. I thought she did a fantastic job of June. I didn't like the man that played Ward. I didn't think he was Ward at all. He's a good actor, but I don't think he got the feel of Ward at all. But I thought she did a really good job of June Cleaver. I liked everything she did.
Okay, now I'd like to ask you a few summing up questions.
All right.
The first one is, and we sort of touched upon this, but what advice would you give an actor who's just starting out?
Learn your trade. I mean, go to school and be in everything that you can be in. You know, if you get a chance, if you're in high school and they do have a drama department, I don't know, do they have drama departments anymore? I went to public school and we had the most wonderful drama department and glee club, and we put on light operas. I don't know if they have that today, but anyway, if they do, be in them. When you go to college, take classes. Every time you get a chance to be in front of the public, do it. And so when your chance comes along, you're ready, and you know that you're going to be prepared to do this role that is given to you. And that's the only way you're going to be comfortable and relaxed. That's my advice to you. And I gave that same advice to my granddaughter, who wants to be an actress very much. She's only 14. She's very beautiful, and I think she'll do it. But I didn't have anybody helping me, but I would like to help her as much as I can. Right now, she's not so sure. She wants grandma getting mixed up. And she hasn't done anything because she goes to a private school and it doesn't offer drama. And when she gets to college, which she's intending to do before she, and her parent didn't want her to be a child actor, so she didn't do that. But she's the only one really in my family that is interested. The others say so, but she means it. Like I took her to see a chorus line when it first was here at the Schubert, and she was about 6. And I thought it was a night show, and we all thought she'd fall asleep. She looked at the show, and she stayed awake, and she said when it was over, "I want to see it again." And she gets intrigued when she's backstage if I'm doing something. And she sat in my dressing room day, and she says, "I like this." She likes it. She's the only one that I feel really likes it and wants to do it.
Did you have a hand in discouraging her being a child actor?
No. I think that was strictly her family. She has a brother and sister, but they're not interested like she is. I have lots of grandchildren.
What kind of fan mail do you get?
I have 2 sons, and I have 3 stepchildren, 2 men and 1 woman, and they all have children. And now those Mortensons are providing me with great-grandchildren. So I have a big family, and we're all together at Christmas.
Do you want to mention, can you talk a little bit about William Mortensen?
Who?
William Mortensen,
your
husband. Can you say a few words about him? Describe him a little bit.
You mean the one I was married to? There are 2 of them.
Yes.
That was Dr. Bill, we all called him. And he was really, I'm glad I married him. I had 22 wonderful years with him. I didn't think I wanted to get married, even though I was very young after Roy died. I thought I didn't mind having a little hanky-panky, but I didn't want to get married. I wouldn't want to spoil what I had. He talked me into getting married, and I'm so glad I did. And he practiced in Santa Monica. He did. He was an internist, but he practiced a general practice. And his father and mother were both doctors. His brother was a doctor. His brother-in-law was a doctor, and his uncles, they were all doctors. So he came from a medical family.
Another question is, what kind of fan mail did you get?
Do I get, or did I get?
Do you get now?
I get. They almost always talk about Beaver. Once in a while, somebody talks about Muppet Babies. Once in a while, and along with Beaver, often they will say, "We loved you in Airplane," and they always are. If through the years you get different people, like there for a long time we had fraternities, no sororities, fraternities would all meet and look at Leave It to Beaver. Now this was not first run. I'm talking about when it was on once a week. No, I'm talking about later. And then now it's more like families whose children are looking at the show. And they are reminded of it, and then their children look at it and they like it. They say just as much. Though they write this, but anyone you talk to, they say, we couldn't put a show on like that today. Nobody'd look at it. So I don't know.
What do you think is Leave It to Beaver's legacy?
What is it left behind?
What is its legacy?
Family values. I think, as I said earlier, it's the ideal family. There were a lot of those. There are fan letters that I get where they say they were brought up in families like that. Our family, after I married Dr. Bill, turned out to be a lot like that, because he came home from his office, he was dressed, he didn't bother to change his clothes before we had dinner. And I, when I was first working in the show, when we were first married, well, for about 4 years I was, we both got home late. I had to have somebody take care of my children and cook. But other than that, but then when I wasn't doing it, the show, and I wasn't working that steadily, then it was very much like that family. You know, he'd come home and I cooked, and it did happen. And I know it's harder, as we said earlier, very hard today, because some women have to. But I'm sorry, women lib. I wish they'd stick with the workplace and stop messing out with their social lives. It's tough for girls today. Men are afraid to make approaches to the women because they might be sued. And I always say, when they stop turning around and looking, and stop whistling at you, that's when you worry. I wish they'd enjoy their roles. I just wish they would each play their own part. What I think they were made for. I don't believe in somebody being abused. I'm not talking about that. You know that. But I'm talking about, I know I have some granddaughters, Mortensen granddaughters. It's tough out there today. I know there are men that want to get married because grandsons do, but that has nothing to do with this. But it is the times, and it's always reflected in our theaters and certainly in television. And some of it I don't like what I say. And I don't want to go back. Don't misunderstand me. I don't want to go back. We have to go forward and be progressive, and that's great. But I want these young girls to be happy and young men to find happiness too. And I think they've been giving it. Nobody opens the car door for you. You girls go and pay for your own meals? Chase, you can reciprocate by inviting them over and cooking dinner for them. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Did you have a mentor?
The only one probably was my mother. She was an inspiration. I wanted to kill her at times. I didn't always agree with her, and she certainly didn't agree with me. But I loved her very much, and I know she loved me very much. And she gave me some mighty good advice. And while she wasn't an actress, she had good worldly wisdom. Yeah, I'll pick her as the most outstanding woman in my life.
The final question is, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, seeing as I'm not all gung-ho, my greatest thrust in life is not to be an actress. It's to be a parent and a wife. I enjoyed my family very much, and I loved what I did. When I did it, I loved it. And I have learned, enjoy what you're doing when you're doing it, because it's not going to last forever. So enjoy it, and I try to do that. But so would it be nice if people remember Beaver? Sure, I'd like that. But if I brought up some good sons, I'm not that close to my grandchildren because they live a long ways away. They don't live out of the state, but they live. Well, one grandson lives in Texas, but yeah, I would hope that I was some kind of an example.
Do you think do people communicate that with you? Do people tell you that?
Yes. My Mortensen grandchildren particularly tell me that all the time, because I've known them since they were born, and now they're, they're in their 30s. Some of them, some are still in their 20s, but most of those are in their 30s. And yeah, they remember all the big Christmas parties. When I lived in a large home, they remember all the Christmas parties. They remember all the Easter parties, and they always tell me what a good example I am to them. I hope so.
What about strangers in terms of you playing the archetypical mother?
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a lot of comments about that from strangers?
From my family, or
No,
from strangers? Yes. As I say, you go through cycles of audiences, and then there was a group who used to say how much they enjoyed it because they learned so much from. And on Oprah, I got a kick shot. I think that was about the first time that somebody said, "I hate you. We couldn't keep up with you. We couldn't have a clean house like you. We couldn't do this." I think that was the first time. Few people have stopped me on the street now and said that to me. I can't live up to you. So, of course, they're referring to June Cleaver. Barbara Billingsley is more apt to wear jeans and a few things like that, and even get teed off. And not with my children anymore. No, I used to. And they were devils. As they've said to me, "Mom, how did you put up with us?" Because they have children of their own now. And they did a lot of things I didn't know they did, and I found out later. But they've turned out to be good men. That's the most important.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on behalf of the archive, I'd like to thank you for sharing your story with us.
I hope it's of some value to somebody out there, and it was fun to be here and have you come to my home.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.